On a New England Stadium on Saturday afternoon. Knoxville Sports Show. All time in Tennessee. Sponsored by Kirby. Walk off the trip on Lake Avenue to the checkerboard. Touchdown, Tennessee. Solid Sports. The only show with a home advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Welcome into Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Gabriel Daniel. We got a great show tonight. No Matthew, no Tucker this week. A little bit of a different look up, but we got Riley Haltom in studio, and we got Amber in here, so we should have a really good one. I want to take a second to thank
Welcome into the Monday night edition of Rock Solid Sports. Right now, having some trouble in hearing Gabriel, but we'll get it fixed. I'm Riley Haltom. I'm here with Amber Donahue in the studio. We're going to try to get Gabriel on here as soon as possible, but Monday night edition live from Cool Beans Bar and Grill. We are, it's an exciting time on Rocky Top. Lots of
testing,
plenty that went on just this weekend with the Diamond Sports, of course. So Amber, first of all, how was your weekend?
I had a good weekend, and it was a really exciting series to watch. Obviously, this was like a big deal. But I mean, I think Christian Moore is what we're going to be talking about today. Just absolutely crazy. He passed Blake in home runs, and everybody's talking about him right now.
Yeah, Christian Moore is just such a baller, and he just looks incredible. The story this season, of course, so far has been the who's going to win, the home run race between him and Blake Burke. And man, it feels like every week we're seeing the one past the other. And it's incredible to see how they're just really just playing off of each other, having a little bit of a friendly rivalry between teammates, to kind of make this happen. It is such a fun way to push this team to new heights and push that offense to new heights, is that back and forth that they're having. Like, of course, the end goal is to win the game,
right?
But having that little sub goal of who's gonna come out on top, Tennessee's all-time leading home run leader, it's just super cool.
Yeah, and this was a massive win. Like they're ranked number 3, Kentucky. And we had to work for this win. We lost the opener, but we got back on our feet, and I feel like that's starting to become kind of a trend. It kind of takes us a little bit in the beginning of the series to kind of get our footing, but it seems like we have just been being able to finish these games. And I'm really excited for Tennessee baseball.
Yeah, and I think part of that comes down to trying to find who that third starter is going to be. For a while, it was like, who's going to be the Sunday starter? And then they kind of found their way with Xander Sechrist. And, of course, he's been phenomenal since taking over the Saturday spot. But it's that Friday spot that it seems the pitching is a little more inconsistent. It also seems like the offense takes a little bit longer to get started each and every week. So yeah, it's an interesting dilemma that Tony Vitello has. Of course, it felt like he finally got it figured out against LSU, and then it turns around next week, and it's like we have to figure out what we're going to do for that Friday spot. It's that, but that being said, with the way that this series was going, and traveling to Lexington to play this, they're ranked right there with us, one spot difference. It was always going to be a tough one, because in the SEC, in Diamond Sports,
the SEC is always the hardest teams to play.
Never guaranteed that you're going to get all three, even against the worst team in the SEC.
Yeah.
You can expect that they're going to give you a tough fight all the way through. It seems like they finally got on track here against Kentucky in that second game, and really just put their foot on the gas to come away with those last two, because Tony Vitello knows you can't drop more than one, even if it is on the road. With the position that this team is in and the chance they have to be one of the best teams in the nation, they want to keep the foot on the gas. They want to get as many wins as possible. So it cannot be understated just how impressive going on the road to Lexington, which they Pitchers Park, by the way. Tough to hit a lot of home runs there. do what they did, put up the amount of runs that they did, and just come away with that win.
Yeah, Christian Moore is an unbelievable talent, and Tony said himself, after the game, talking about Moore's third inning home run and a sixth inning double, and just his performance on the game. He said that was pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you. There's no real words to put into it. So if you're an SEC baseball coach and you're saying that about your player, you have some real talent that you're working with. But as a whole, it's looking like, we have one of the nation's best offenses. So we just need to be focusing our efforts on the pitching. And I feel like that's what we've talked about these past couple Mondays is the pitching just doesn't seem to be consistent, and it's kind of our issue this season. So that's definitely where all of our efforts should be focused.
Absolutely. Now, Amber, let's see if we got Gabriel in here now.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
There we go. Walk through the technical difficulties quickly this time around.
Yes.
We're talking some volunteer baseball. Is that what I heard?
We are.
Awesome. What, Christian Moore? Is that what we were talking?
Oh, yeah, that's all we were talking about. Christian Moore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what you guys said, but I think I can get the gist. Really good player, right? Just terrific series, and to cap it off with 3 home runs in that last game is just incredible. And it shows you what this team has in hitting wise when you got 2 guys at the same time competing for the home run record for the school. So that's just what we have with these bats, and the scores are going to show it, where the bats are really just the strength of this team, and it's a complete flip of last year. And earlier in the season we were saying these crazy, like I think it was one of the Georgia games was a really high scoring game as well. And it's like, oh, we're not going to see a lot of these. This doesn't really happen a lot. It turns out we might see a couple more of these this year with this Tennessee team, because that's just how it's playing out with these bats. And this series is just everyone stepped up, but Christian Moore especially.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a phenomenal performance from him, and one that I want to keep seeing from him, because it's just more fun that way. It's more fun to see these guys go at it like that. And 3 home runs, man, in a single game. That's absolutely incredible. But also want to give a little shout out Marcus Phillips in that game 3, that 13-11 decision for the Vols, coming in there and absolutely shutting it down, getting the Vols out of a jam and clutching up that win for them in the bottom of the 9th. Only had to get the 1 out, but he did it and possibly saved that game for the Vols.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're going to need, and that's you're switching sides a little bit, talking about where you might have concerns with this team is in the pitching, especially with the bullpen, and we've just kind of seen, you don't have a lot of arms there. You got Kirby, who's been playing amazing and honestly playing at a level that going a length of time that I didn't think Kirby could, but he's doing it consistently now, and he's one of your main arms out of the bullpen, him and Xander. But you need these guys to be able to come in and it sounds small, but get a save with coming in and having to get 1 out. And I'm still a little bit concerned, because you look at it and it's like, how many games can you win 13-11? How replicatable is that? That's more of a conversation for moving forward. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on kind of where we are with the pitching, and if we could see even more improvement, because we have seen improvement from the pitching from where we were earlier in the year. Drew Beam has been a little up and down, but we've seen AJ Kazi be pretty good for the most part. Again, Kirby Canals, Andrew Seacrest in the bullpen. Aaron Combs picked up his first win of the season in relief for Drew Beam in that 2 games. So I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on this pitching.
Yeah, Saturday was definitely Aaron Combs, best work, and he's obviously had to kind of get on his feet, and it's been kind of a rocky start for him. But yeah, that's still my concern. The pitching is definitely still my concern. I'm not sure how to fix that. Like, I'm not sure where our efforts should be really focused, like on what pitchers are going to, be able to step up and bring the consistency to the team that we need. What do you think?
Well, I think at a certain point you just got the arms you have, right? And there's not much. I think the hope is like a Marcus Phillips, like maybe he can come more consistent as the year wears on, and maybe a couple younger guys like Nate Snead becomes a little more consistent. He's been good. Nate Snead's been really good for the most part of this year, and one of the key arms that they have. But I think the hope is just that it becomes more consistent and it gets to a level where maybe you give up, because if you're giving up, I don't know, 5, right? I think that's much more. You can deal with giving up 5 runs a game, and this offense can definitely deal with it. I mean, this offense can deal with almost anything, it seems like. So, it doesn't need to be this amazing level that we might have seen in some past seasons, and you definitely don't have the level of pitchers that you've had in the past seasons, but you definitely have something that you could win a World Series with. I mean, obviously not World Series. You could win College World Series with. Obviously just with what you have offensively and how deep it is hitting offensively, because it's not just the top of the lineup with Christian Moore and Blake Burke and Billy Amick. It's Dylan Dreiling. It's, so many. Hunter Ensley comes in there, gets a home run in this series. It's so many of the other guys, and it's so deep. Dalton Bargo, all these guys are really good hitters. So, you don't need your pitching staff to be as great. Any other final thoughts about this baseball series, guys?
Yeah, I do love the way Tony Vitello is using his midweeks, because in almost every midweek this season, it's been like every pitcher gets a single inning. And it's like their tryout for, can you go be a part of that weekend rotation? And I just love the way Tony Vitello has done that. And I've seen some incredible performances from Marcus Phillips, which is why I wasn't super surprised that he was able to go into there in Lexington in that high pressure situation and go get that save. It's because he's getting that game time in these midweeks. He's getting plenty of time there to prove that, hey, I'm going to be that guy that rises above the rest of this group and carve myself out a role in this pitching staff.
And that competitiveness within the team that, you set up when, it's obviously they are your teammates, but when you have that drive of you want to pitch, you want to show up and you want to prove to the coach, then everybody just does better, because, you're competing, against great players, then you're going to, obviously get better. So I think I like the way that he is coaching them and motivating them. I think it's great.
Yeah, well, obviously a very good series win for the Tennessee Volunteers over number 3 at the time, Kentucky, one of the best teams in baseball. And, if you just want to get a look at where the SEC is baseball-wise, go and look at the top teams, the top-ranked teams. You got Texas A&M at number 1, Arkansas at number 2, now Tennessee at number 3, Kentucky at number 4, all 4 of the top 4 teams in the SEC. Up next, you got Western Kentucky as the midweek, and then it is a Missouri series, a Missouri team that kind of gave Tennessee a rude awakening last year, if everyone remembers. It was a weird series, first series of SEC play, and Vols just weird weather, and the Vols really just got destroyed in a season we weren't really expecting, and kind of set the tone for a lot of that SEC play that we saw. But not the same Missouri team that we saw last year. Pretty tough start to the year. Overall 8-23 right now, 6-12 in conference play, so not having too much success. Now they have had to play Kentucky and Vanderbilt, and I think they've played Florida, and I think they might have played who was it? They might have played Arkansas too. I'm not sure. Yeah, they did play Arkansas. So really tough schedule for conference play for Missouri, but I think obviously just looking ahead real quick, a series that the Vols you're definitely expecting them to come out with a win. Any expectations for this Missouri series, guys?
Man, you just gotta try to avoid what happens last year, right? You don't want to get taken off guard by a team that you should be winning at least 2 games on. Because I was talking to Amber earlier, in a SEC series, you're not guaranteed 3 games, even against the worst of the worst. It's always going to be a tough 3 games to go and get those wins. So you have to come out with at least 2. You can't get shocked again. Don't let them surprise you again. You know that this team is going to be competitive. They were competitive last year. They're going to be competitive again this year. You have to go out there, play your best type of ball, and don't try to play down or anything like that we've seen a lot of these Tennessee teams do over the years. Play down to your opponent. You got to set your standard and keep it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree.
Yeah, and that's a trap a lot of teams can fall into. And I think I really don't think this Tennessee team is built like that. I mean, just with the personalities that you have on this team, and I think last year a lot of learning went on over the course of that season, and the veteran leadership on this team. I don't really see them playing down to their competition, and I'm not. I'd feeling pretty good about taking at least 2 games out of this series. Moving on a little bit, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about some recruiting news because basketball season just finished up, and football season's been done for a little while, but it doesn't end here on Rocky Top. Start with football. Class of 2025 receiver Rodarius Jackson committed over teams like Ole Miss, Auburn to Tennessee. 4-star out of Memphis. From what it sounds like, really good athlete. And it makes sense to a receiver come here, and you want to get fast receivers in this offense. I mean, after what we saw happen with Jalen Hyatt 2 years ago, now it's definitely the way that the Heupel offense is run really benefits from having a real burner there. And obviously this is way down. 2025 recruit. Going to be a long time until we see him play if he plays for Tennessee. But it's always good to be refilling the receiver core, especially with guys like Brew McCoy on their way out after this year. A couple of older guys also on their way out this year. Any quick thoughts about the recruit?
Yeah, I think it's super important that you're consistently kind of getting those, receivers and really good fast players because, we're in the SEC. SEC football is a whole different ball game. And that Alabama and those other teams are focusing their efforts on getting the best guys and the, fastest guys. And so I think I like that, we're still pushing, getting, as many recruits as we can that are really going to help this team, and especially with the quarterback next year, with Nico. It's just a lot of exciting opportunities. And I think that's also why maybe, recruits are choosing them over some other teams, is because there's just a lot of potential. And yeah, I'm excited.
I think it goes to show that right now, or for at least as long as Josh Heupel is coaching the University of Tennessee, it's going to be a destination for wide receiver prospects. I mean, they saw what he did with Jalen Hyatt. They saw what he did with Cedric Tillman. These guys are guys that are going to go on and they're having careers in the NFL right now. And then you got guys on the roster right now like Brew McCoy and, Ramel Keaton going to be in this draft this upcoming weekend. They're guys that are going to the league and carving themselves out a role. Recruits are seeing that and saying, if I really want to go and make my dream of going to the NFL a reality, this is the destination that I can do it, and this is a coach that I can do it for.
Yeah, and it's also like with Tennessee, like with these recruits looking at some of these bigger teams, they can go there, but it's also more competitive. You know what I mean? Like all the good guys are going there, and so I see why it's attractive to come to Tennessee, where you can kind of be your own star and kind of have your own position because you don't have as many, guys lined up like Alabama or, Michigan, whatever, stuff like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think also it's just another in a wave of focused recruiting in state, which I always think is really good. I think you got to dominate in state because, anytime a guy just leaves your state and goes somewhere else and performs really well, it's never a good look. And there's plenty of great talent in the state of Tennessee, all three, Knoxville and East Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and Memphis, just all sorts of prospects that you can get in here. So I always like the focused recruiting in state, and hopefully we see that continue. Also had basketball first recruit for Tennessee for the class of 2025, Dwayne Brown, commits over the likes of Mississippi State. Big man, 6'5", 6'9", 250. And, just another body to get in there, especially with what we're looking at with the presumed transfer of Jonas Edu and maybe Toby Awaka. We'll see how that plays out. But continuing to just build for the future there and looking forward a couple seasons from now, getting some more size in there. And just with the way that college basketball is going, I mean, heck, we saw it this year, and he's not these guys' sizes or the type of recruit, but Klingon and Edie, how important it is to have some good big men on your team. So any thoughts on this recruit, guys?
Yeah, just good to bring in some more young players, losing guys like DJ Jefferson, Freddie DeLeon to the portal. You want to bring some more youth into the room just so that you can try to continue to build there. I mean, I know right now the transfer portal is just such a nice option for those players to, go somewhere where they can get some more immediate time playing on the court. But, you always want to have some youth in the room to some potential at the very least to build on your own room.
And I like that they're getting I do like that they're, getting some bigger guys, because it's really frustrating to play against, teams when they just have one, really great, big guy or multiple. Even if you have good game, it's a totally different defense that you have to play. It's a totally different offense you have to play against guys like that. So I think, leveling the playing field a little bit and looking for talent in that department is definitely a good idea.
All right, really quick before we end this first segment, I'd be remiss if we did not get in there some Lady Vols softball, because they had a big win over number 7 LSU over the weekend, won 2-1. Just what can you say? The pitching is amazing, and this is coming off a season where you lost Ashley Rogers, but you got Peyton Godchaw and Carolyn Pickens just doing absolute work in the circle. Only gave up one run over the 3 days against the number 7 team. Did lose that game 2-0-1, won the other 2 3-0. And honestly, this was a season I was heading into with this Lady Vols team that I thought there's no way that they could be as good as they were last year, just because of how good they were last year. And you lose Ashley Rogers, but I mean they're right there. They're number 4th ranked team in the country, and hopefully they just can keep it up. Any quick thoughts about Lady Vols softball?
Yeah, just so dominant. Man, it's incredible to watch them play because, like you said, you expect that standard you expect them to fall below that standard that they set last year. And while I think they have just a tad this season, that's not a bad bar to be on. I mean, it's pretty.
The team last year was special, incredibly special.
And it's also nice to see, obviously the Lady Vols basketball is kind of struggling right now and finding their own pace, but to have, a female sports team that is really still dominant is just nice to see. We've got some really, really great softball girls here. So I'm excited to, continue to see how they play.
And not to go off too far, and that's kind of what's so disappointing about Lady Vols basketball is everyone else is performing so well, and they're just a tick below. But that's going to do it for segment 1 here on Rock Solid Sports. We got a great segment 2. We're talking NFL draft. It's going to be amazing. We'll be right back.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans offers lunch daily with a full and late night menu and is the pre- and post-game on-campus location for Vols and Smokies baseball and Lady Vols softball, MLB, Pro Soccer, and the Preds on the big screens. 21 and over only, please. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2024 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesday through Sundays, now into September at Smokies Stadium in Kodak. WTK's Rock Solid Sports will have weekly Smokies updates, thesmokiesbaseball.com, and a link is at WTKradio.com.
Hey, this is Blake Clark, Cajun coach and the water boy. This is 90.3 The Rock of the Hill. Now what remember that? We live by that day.
90.3 The Rock proudly brings Knoxville the best in new and classic, independent, and underground music on the Indie Owl. Monday nights from 8 to 10, hosted by former award-winning alumni from the WUTK Music Department and sponsored by Magnolia Records, 1515 North Central Avenue in Knoxville, and the Tomato Head Restaurant on Market Square and in the Gallery Shopping Center. Spinning cutting-edge music from around the world that pushes musical boundaries like noise pop, math rock, slowcore, shoegaze, garage rock, chamber pop, chill wave, and more. The Indie Owl brings you hard-to-find music from the artists that make it to the listeners who love it. The Indie Owl also provides independent artist news and chances to win Tomato Head and Magnolia Records gift cards. Tune in to Knoxville's true independent radio. The Indie Owl, Monday nights at 8, only on 90.3 The Rock, always bringing Knoxville new music first.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2024 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesday through Sundays now into September at Smoky Stadium in Kodak. Rock Solid Sports will have weekly Smokies updates. TheSmokiesBaseball.com, linked up at WUTKRadio.com.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social has an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate or entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Sports about to get started with segment 2. First, I do want to shout out Cool Beans Bar and Grill. Rock Solid Sports Monday Night Show is sponsored by Cool Beans, the 21 and up college sports pub next to campus at 1817 Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps, bottles, HD TVs, darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. with burgers, wings, and sandwiches for dine-in and take-out with fall card accepted. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or at coolbeansbar.com. We got some playoff hockey going on in the background. I believe it's Bruins Maple Leafs, but that's not what we're talking about in this segment. We're talking about the NFL draft coming up starting on Thursday. And I'll be honest, guys, I'm like a kid in a candy store when it comes to the NFL draft. I know Riley is a similar man like me. There's so many storylines, there's so many places teams can go, and there's so much depth versus like other drafts of guys that can contribute immediately. I think it just makes it so interesting on how teams approach this. I think where I want to start with this is the home state team, Tennessee Titans, at pick number 7. Now, the way I see it, there's about 3 scenarios that can play out for the Titans at 7. You got scenario 1, you take Joe Alt. Immediate help at an immediate need at left tackle. A lot of people are saying the best tackle, almost consensus top tackle in the draft. Probably going to be there with how, I think the only big concern of someone taking him is the Chargers at 5, but they could be trading out of 5. They could also very easily go receiver. So that's option 1. You got option 2, which would be a trade down and pick up probably another different tackle or later on in the draft at maybe like 12 or 13 or 14, something like that. And then you got option 3 where you go with one of these top 3 receivers that could also be on the board, probably Roma Dunze or maybe Malik Neighbors. So I want to pose a question to you guys. If you're the Tennessee Titans, what path do you think they should go down with that 7 pick?
Yeah, like you said, this is probably one of my favorite sports days of the year, sports weekends, I guess, because I'm a nut for all 3 days. But I've done a lot of thinking about this since the Titans are my favorite team and what I'd want them to do. And right now, my favorite course of action would be to trade down and take Olu Fashanu. I don't think the difference between him and Joe Alt is that large that it's worth sticking and picking there if you feel that you can get him, or if you feel that you can get Olu Fashanu down the board and get that extra pick or whatever it ends up being, whatever the compensation ends up being. I could see. I personally think it's a very good idea to trade down and get Olu Fashanu. That being said, I do want to put this out there that I think it's a very bad idea to go for any of the receivers. I think you've got the receivers there that you're going to run with this season no matter what. Sure, the question is like, can you improve on that 3rd spot? But for a fact you're going to have Calvin Ridley and D-Hop on the outside. You don't need another dominant receiver. You've got some guys there that you're expecting to contribute, whether it's Traylon Burks playing from the slot or even a guy like Kyle Phillips, who could maybe hope to have a second type of career resurgence with the new head coach, Brian Callahan. So to me, the only option here is you have to take the tackle. It's just too big of a pressing need for this team. You need a left tackle so desperately. You don't have an answer on the roster. You have to get it there.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a painful need for a tackle, and I think that as shiny as these receivers can seem and stuff, you got to focus on your own team's needs, not just taking a receiver to take a receiver, or you got to focus on working with what you already have and what's actually going to help this team the most. So yeah, no, I mean I'm not a Titans fan, but that's my case.
Well, I think the case for a receiver that you would make is, these top three guys a lot considered to be just that caliber of receiver where, they're going to come in and instantly, I don't want to say there's a really good chance that they're going to give you that high caliber production that you look for a receiver. And in combination with that, DeAndre Hopkins, obviously older last year of his deal, Calvin Ridley, either just turned 30 or is just about to turn 30. I think he just met that threshold. But I think I agree with you guys. You got to go tackle, especially with how deep this receiver room is or this receiver class is. We can maybe attack if you need another threat at receiver. You feel that you can attack that maybe in the second round, maybe later on. And that's where you're talking about trade down comes in. You don't have a third round pick this year. Use that to go up and get Will Levis last year. Maybe you could help refill some of that where I think there'll be some value at receiver in the third round. I think personally, man, I think I gotta go Joe Alt. I mean, Fashanu was Fashanu. Wait, how do you pronounce it, Riley? Because they Fashanu. It was Fashanu for a while, and then he had to come out and correct people.
Yeah,
I have to catch myself because I go with it. And I forget which one's right. But you can go. Olu was considered right there for the longest time, as with Joe Alt as a top tackle, especially heading into the season. And there's concerns because he's got smaller hands. We'll see how much that plays out. I think right now personally, because I'm going between trading down and taking, because I'm a big trade down guy and getting that value, especially where you are as a team where you could use some more draft picks. I think right now though, I like sticking there and picking Alt. And of course, we don't know what the trade down scenarios are because you need a team to want to come up, presumably for a receiver, because it sounds like so far that a quarterback isn't going to fall there. So a team would really want to come up and maybe jump the Bears if Roma Dunze's there or something, or if Malik Neighbors is there. I doubt Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, but yeah, I think obviously it's going tackle, and I like Joe Alt personally. Now, going off that, there's still plenty to talk about with this draft beside the Titans. There's what the Titans do later on in the draft, too. I guess we'll start with that. And, I'll go to you, Riley. That second round pick, because after that second round pick, if you don't trade down, you're not picking in until the fourth round. So, and being at the top of the second round, I think you can really get some value there. Another spot where you got a lot of ways you can go. You can go receiver. This is a team that does have needs. Not only you got a couple of starting needs, but you have depth needs pretty much across the roster. So what are you thinking for that second pick for the Titans?
I do like the idea of going wide receiver there. Like you were mentioning earlier, it's a deep class. I think there's a lot of guys that can come in and contribute. But that being said, I really also like the idea of going for maybe whoever your top linebacker is on the board, because that is probably still going to be on the board there. Maybe whoever your top edge rusher is, because right now you still got some questions there as to who you're really going to start. Is it going to be TK McClendon, or do you want to get, one of the top guys in that second round? I think there are a lot of good options here, and I don't really think they can go wrong, because no matter what, you're going to have some good options at wide receiver. You're going to have some good options at edge. And especially if you do go tackle early on, I think the Titans have plenty of options at that spot.
Yeah, I think you could even double tip at offensive line. I mean, the roster, you got Daniel Brunskill at right guard, and we'll see how right tackle shapes out. You can make an argument for that depending on who's there. I really like going edge rusher. I don't, with losing Autry and just there's really a hole in that second edge rusher spot opposite Harold Landry. I think Darius Robinson could be there, Missouri, and that's a guy I kind of look at like, I don't know how much I love him because the production wasn't great, but I kind of see him maybe being able to fit that Autry role where he can come inside on some downs, then also play the edge, which Autry did so well for the Titans. And you're right, you can't really go wrong with this second round pick as long as you don't take like a kicker or something, which they're not going to do. So either way, you're getting a player that's probably going to be very close to start, probably going to be a starter or very close to starting or part of a rotation there. Also, linebacker, you do need another. You just need, Kenneth Murray and Jack Gibbons. It's like, it's tough heading into the season thinking, now this team appears to be high on Kenneth Murray. He really hasn't shown much, on the field, great athlete and all that. But again, the thing with linebacker is it's a tough spot to draft, and it's tough to know which guys work out and which guys don't. Maybe like a Junior Colson from Michigan. You've got like Junior Colson. Yeah, I think that's probably your best bet. But with how he's been being talked about the past couple of days, there's no guarantee he's going to be there. You also got Cedric Gray from North Carolina, and who's the other one? Was it NC State? I think is that NC State.
Yeah, Peyton Wilson.
Yeah, I was going to say like Peyton Turner, but he's a different draft class. But yeah, you got options at linebacker. You got options at all those positions. So it really depends on how the board breaks out. You got a couple Vols in this draft, of course. You got Jalen Wright. I know you love Jalen Wright, Riley. I think everyone in Tennessee loves Jalen Wright. But you got Jalen Wright, Kamal Haddon. I think definitely going to hear their name called over the course of the draft. And then you got Joe Milton, who I'm sure someone's going to take a gamble on him. And, there's been talk of him switching to tight end. So I'm sure he'll probably get his name called. So it's going to be interesting to see where those guys land. Jalen Wright, it's going to be weird. It's going to be interesting to see how the running backs go because you don't really have that, like, clear-cut top guy, even though I really like Trey Benson. But it's going to be they're probably going to get pushed back a little bit. So, but I could see him maybe sneaking into the second round, probably a third-round pick from just what I'm thinking. If he's a top 3 running back, but the top running back doesn't go till the end of round 2, that's just where we're at in the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how these Vols go. But I want to go back to the first round and talk about these quarterbacks because it's going to be a really interesting draft with how these quarterbacks pan out. Last year we saw a really crazy draft just with the Texans taking Stroud and then coming back up for Will Anderson and then what the Lions did. I don't know if this draft will top that just because we had so much. You had Christian Gonzalez falling to the Patriots at like 17. So much wild stuff. But we're not really sure how these quarterbacks are going to go. We got the top guy. Caleb Williams is going 1 overall. Love it, hate it, whatever. He is going the first overall pick. But, Jaden Daniels, for the longest time, it was Drake May was consensus number 2. Now Jaden Daniels is creeping up there at number 2. And, of course, J.J. McCarthy has been getting a lot of buzz over the offseason. Pretty much, unless it's just the biggest smokescreen of all time, he's probably going to be a top 5 pick as well. At the very least, top 10. So you're going to get 4 guys going in the top 5. The question is, for 3 of those guys, where are they going to land? Personally, I think with the Commanders, I think you go Drake May. I think I like Jane Daniels a lot. I like what he can do. I think Drake May is just a bit above Jane Daniels, and I have concerns about Daniel. You got to look at what was going on at LSU, and while they had a terrible defense, they had so much talent on that offense, on the offensive line, and especially in the receivers. You're going to have his 2 receivers are going to go in the first round as well with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. So, and I don't like looking at the talent and saying, hey, that takes away from it. But when you look at it, he kind of struggled attacking the middle of the field sometimes, I thought. And I still think he's very worthy that top 5 pick or top 10 pick. But I just think it'd be a mistake to pass on Drake May. What are y'all's thoughts on this quarterback class?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think there's a top 3 tiers that are pretty clear cut to me. You got Drake May and Caleb Williams as kind of your first tier. Caleb Williams is like a 1A. Drake May is like a 1B. And then you've got that second tier, which is going to be Jaden Daniels at 3, JJ McCarthy at 4. Then you got your like third tier, which is going to be, I like Penix over Bo Nix. So you're going to have Penix at 5 and Bo Nix at 6. That's your top. I think those are the 3 tiers of guys that have any sort of potential to go round 1. I don't even think those tier 3 guys should be going round 1. But I do think there is a chance that it happens if things just get really wild on draft night. But that being said, I think it'll be one of those like Caleb Williams to the Bears, Drake May to the Commanders. I'm going to say Jaden Daniels to the Pats. And I'm going to say J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings, who trade up and get him there.
Yeah, it's probably the best on the best available. They put Jay Daniels above Drake May, but I mean, it's like obviously like the top 2 tiers. They could go to these like teams, but I just love seeing just like somebody just throwing something in the works and picking a random and then it all getting messed up because
it always happens.
It always happens.
Yeah, it does.
And, like, you could predict it as much as you want, but I don't know. I want to see just a team early, make a decision and everyone have to change up. And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of boring to just have the quarterbacks go off the bat. Obviously, Caleb Williams is like kind of out of the question because he's number 1. But yeah, I don't know. But there's definitely some pretty good quarterback prospects. It's just up to the teams and kind of what they need.
It's so tough drafting quarterbacks. When it comes down to it, It really feels like no one knows what they're doing. And when
it's like, when are you going to play that? Like, I don't know. There's so many other things. It's like, God, I just love. I really love it. I love the chaos of it all. I love how you don't even know. Like if a quarterback is gonna get injured, you don't, and then they go in and either they prove themselves or don't prove themselves. I mean, you got Mr. Irrelevant. And then go into that. So, like, nobody really knows. You can only, see, the potential that these guys have. But, a few of them I can see, definitely stepping up to the plate in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, even last year, C.J. Stroud leading up to it, not every mock draft was showing him at 2. It was almost consensus that the Texans were going to go Will Anderson. Obviously, they found a way to get both players. All right, I looked down. We're running low on time on segment 2. Felt like we just started talking draft, so I'm a little disappointed. But one more thing I want to do, this can be any round. It doesn't really have to be a sleeper per se. I want one player you feel you like a little more, it seems, than most people, or just a player that you really like, and you're like, if you had one bet on a player to be really good, that's the player you're going with. And one player, if you can, that you just think you're a little lower on and you don't think is going to be as good as other people think.
Right. I'm going to stay home here with my pick that I think of a guy that's going to be better than people think. I'm going with Kamal Haddon. I think Kamal Haddon is a guy that maybe even ends up going like 3rd round. He's had his moments, and you can talk all about his time at Tennessee and the ups and downs and whatever else, but I think undeniably the talent and the length that he has, when he's on his game, he looks like one of the better corners in this class. And for that reason, I think somebody's going to take a chance on him in that maybe even early 3rd round range. I really do think Kamal Haddon can go that high. A guy I'm a little bit lower on than everybody else. Let's go with Devontae Walker out of North Carolina. It's a wide receiver. A lot of people like him as kind of like that bet as the best slot guy, to come in and immediately contribute for a team. But I just don't know. There were just too many of those, just unnecessary drops that he had throughout the season, and especially in the Senior Bowl. I wasn't a huge fan. I don't think his route running is exceptional to be that, top slot guy. So for that reason, I'm gonna say Tez Walker is gonna be my guy I'm a little low on.
Honestly, and I don't know why I feel this way, but I don't have the highest hopes of J.J. McCarthy that other people do. I think obviously he's great, but you could be great in college, and you have to fit with the team. You have to, it's a whole level up. But just out of the quarterbacks, I feel like he raises just maybe the most questions for me. I don't know. I don't feel 100% confidence in him. For a sleeper, I mean, you might have to get back to me, Gabriel. You can answer this.
That's okay. I think lower. I think I'm gonna go Jaden Daniels just because of some of the talk that I've seen about him. Where it's like in a lot of other classes, they're like, "Oh, he'd be the first overall pick," and I'm like, "Yeah, I think it depends on the class. Like, obviously, if we're talking the Sam Howell draft class, yes, he'd probably be the first quarterback taken, probably be the first overall pick. But he's being compared to, I was reading an article where it's comparing him to like Trevor Lawrence coming out, and you can talk about Trevor Lawrence and what he's been in the league. Jane Daniels is not the prospect that Trevor Lawrence was coming out of the draft. So I think I like him. It's really high up there with him. And I think it just needs to be tempered a little bit. I think there's a higher bust potential than people think. A player I'm higher on, that's tough. I think I'm going to go Graham Barton. Now, there's a lot of people that are very high on Graham Barton because of his positional flexibility, and he can play pretty much all 5 spots on the offensive line. That's what I really like about him. I think he did great for Duke. Went to high school pretty close to me. Went to Ravenwood High School. Also, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I went to elementary school with this kid. Like, I'm pretty sure. It's just that's what I'm thinking. But so maybe it's just too much hometown bias. But I think he's going to be a pretty good pro and plays center, left guard, right guard, and can go out to tackle. Well, Amber, do you have one for us?
Joe Milton, I just decided.
Okay,
There
you go.
I don't hate it.
I like it. Hey, rocket arm. You can do anything with that arm. All right, I look down. It's almost 7:50. We got to get into NBA playoffs next segment. We'll be right back to Volunteer Radio, Rock Solid Sports.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the campus headquarters for food, brews, pool, shots, darts, sports, and more fun. Tuesday night is team trivia night, and Thursday nights are for bingo. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2024 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesday through Sundays, now into September at Smoky Stadium in Kodak. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will have weekly Smokies updates. TheSmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Big love and respect to Knoxville, Tennessee, and everybody out there. This is Brad X from the Cottonmouth Kings. You're on 90.3 The Rock, and we're getting down the right way. Big love and respect every time.
The Rock thanks Fieldhouse Social, the Wednesday home for Rock Solid Sports, for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails, plus a 25-foot big screen at University Commons Way. Fieldhouse Social welcomes sports fans and others alike to enjoy dishes like the citrus marinated chicken, grilled Faroe Island salmon, and smoked ribs. FieldhouseSocial.com or on Twitter and Facebook.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2024 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesday through Sundays, now into September at Smoky Stadium in Kodak. Rock Solid Sports will have weekly Smokies updates. TheSmokiesBaseball.com, linked up at WUTKRadio.com.
90.3 The Rock proudly brings Knoxville the best in new and classic, independent, and underground music on the Indie Owl. Monday nights from 8 to 10, hosted by former award-winning alumni from the WUTK Music Department and sponsored by Magnolia Records, 1515 North Central Avenue in Knoxville, and the Tomato Head Restaurant on Market Square and in the Gallery Shopping Center, spinning cutting-edge music from around the world that pushes musical boundaries like noise pop, math rock, slowcore, shoegaze, garage rock, chamber pop, chillwave, and more. The Indie Owl brings you hard-to-find music from the artists that make it to the listeners who love it. The Indie Owl also provides independent artist news and chances to win Tomato Head and Magnolia Records gift cards. Tune in to Knoxville's true independent radio. The Indie Hour, Monday nights at 8, only on 90.3 The Rock, always bringing Knoxville new music first.
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports right here on 90.3 The Rock. Well, we got the NFL draft. We got finish up Tennessee's baseball and softball. Got to talk about some NBA playoffs. And Matthew's not here, but he'd kill me if we didn't get some NBA playoffs in to talk about. I think we've seen each team play one game so far, which isn't a lot, but I think you can still make a lot of assertions about where these teams are at this point. The first game I wanted to talk about, and we don't have the time to go through all of these, but I just wanted to talk about the Thunder beating the Pelicans 94-92. Obviously, the closest game that we've had so far. And, you look at it, it's like, oh, it's a 1-8 seed. But, the Pelicans were only 8 games behind the Thunder. I mean, Pelicans won 49 games. It's just the West was so stacked that 49 games gets you the 8 seed. 1 game away from a 51 season. It's just crazy. And the other thing about the Pelicans, obviously, no Zion, and it's tough and it's frustrating just because what's been Zion's career so far is that when he's been healthy, he's played really well. And then you had the beginning of the season where he was healthy and he played okay, but he wasn't that dominant force. But as it progressed, got a little bit better in shape. He was coming back, and we were starting to see that Zion Williamson of old that we saw coming out of Duke and that top overall pick and that generational player. And then just had great playing games, and then gets injured, and it's tough. And I think in this game they really had a real chance of winning this one. They were like a Larry Nance Jr. missed dunk away from taking this one. I think it's a series. If you're the Pelicans, you're not freaking out, and it's not that I'm not going to disrespect the Thunder, but they are just such a young team that I just don't consider them in that level of championship contention as maybe, the Nuggets or the Celtics, even though they're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. They're just so young. And I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They're just so young that, I think they still win this series. But matching up in the next round with either the Clippers or the Mavs is really tough.
Yeah, this is a super fun team to watch, but we've come to see over the years that experience just does matter in the playoffs. That's what it comes down to, and this team has little to none. So despite being the 1 seed, it's going to be a tough road for them all the way through. I think the Pelicans are one of the toughest teams they could have drew for their first round matchup because, they're going to give you everything they have on defense. That's what the Pelicans do. And it's going to make it much more difficult to go against another one of those super experienced teams that you're going to get next year, either in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving in the Mavs or in the Clippers with, of course, all their older superstars. They have James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and, of course, Paul George. So it's going to be a tough series no matter what, no matter who wins it. And whoever wins it is going to have a very tough next round.
Yeah, the Mavericks and Clippers is interesting to me because obviously the Clippers took it, but Luka is such a star that I want the Mavericks to win that series and kind of see him face some other teams and them to get far. But I'm a Heat fan, and so is Matthew, and Jimmy Butler's hurt, so Matthew's going to be angry for the next couple weeks.
He's going to come back to start screaming next week. Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Clippers, Mavs, because I think that series is really interesting just because of where these teams are, where it's like, it's time. Like, they got to start winning some playoff series.
Oh, yeah.
And I think what you look at as a positive is, again, the Thunder are really good, but the Thunder are definitely susceptible in that second round. So you're talking about, I think, a pretty solid path of being in the conference finals, and then who knows what happens. And both these teams, I think Jason Kidd's job is almost riding on this because they, you got Luka, you got Kyrie, you got nothing else. I mean, you got the next. Who's your next best player? Is it PJ Washington? I mean,
yeah.
Is that really a formula for winning right now? And in that first game, no Kawhi for the Clippers, and that's when they're susceptible. That's when you got to go, and you don't get it done. Of course, James Harden had a great game, and Paul George, and the Clippers still have this talent, but I think it just signals that we're in a new type of NBA that's going away from these super teams. They're almost dead, I think. Where like you still getting these like two good players together, but I just look at the Suns where it's like they tried the thing with the big three again, and it just hasn't been working so far. I doubt it's going to work. And you're looking at teams, the Celtics, and they've added players and stuff like that. A lot of drafted guys there. The Thunder, almost all drafted guys, and you bought low on, or you brought in Shea Gilgeous really early. A lot of these top teams, the Nuggets is a lot of the guys they drafted. So I think we've entered a new era of how these NBA teams compete, which I'm very happy to see. Any other thoughts about the NBA playoffs, guys?
I mean, I just want to give a shout out to my guy Damian Lillard because I'm a big Dame fan. I love Dame.
No Giannis, no problem.
Not a Bucks fan, but I do like Dame, and for that reason, I'm happy to see them getting that win over the Pacers, especially when Tyrese Halliburton's trying to do the Dame Tom Selly and goes on to lose that game. And it makes me happy inside because I do love Damian Lillard and was happy to see that game go that way.
All right, well, that's all we have for today on Rock Solid Sports. Thank you for joining us. For Amber, for Riley, for myself, thank you so much. Up next, we have the Indie Aisle.